All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We may have some other people that come in at a later time, but in the interest of everyone's time, we'll go ahead and kick it off. So again, this is the Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant Program onboarding webinar. So first off, congratulations to all of you who are here because you have been preliminarily awarded through this grant program. So congratulations on that. I know I've heard from a lot of you through the application process, as well as since the awards have come out. So just a congratulations from me, and hopefully we'll get all your questions answered today. Again, if everybody could just make sure that they are muted, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so my name is Amanda Hawkins. I'm a grants planner with the OPB Grants Division. So I'm going to be walking you through the onboarding webinar today. Again, this is being recorded and it will be posted as soon as possible, hopefully by tomorrow, along with the corresponding slides on the program webpage that you're probably all familiar with through the OPB website. All right, so first, just so you know, we do have a post-award FAQs document on our website that's linked here through the slides. Again, once these slides are going to be posted on the website, you'll be able to click right through these slides to the linked information, so you'll have access to that. I encourage you to, once these are available to you, go through and review the website as much as you possibly can, as well as all of the linked information, to make yourself a little bit more comfortable and familiar with the information that we're kind of feeding you today. It's going to be a lot of information, but it's going to be super helpful for you. And there may be certain documents, links, etc., that you wish to bookmark for future purposes as well. All right, so just a general outline of what we're going to be going through today. So just a general overview of the program, and then just discussing some of the federal requirements because this is federal funding that you've been awarded. Then we're going to go through our award next steps, which we've kind of already started the process with for all of you guys under this program, but we're going to walk you through each of those steps and make sure you understand what those next steps are. Then we're going to discuss payment request submissions, and then reporting, as well as audits. All right, some goals for you guys as the awardees. So first off, we want you to be able to recognize your obligation to comply with federal requirements and resources. As I stated, these are federal dollars that you've been awarded. So with that comes specific requirements. We're going to identify next steps in the award process for you. We're going to identify your key grant documents that you're going to utilize throughout this program. We're going to make sure you become familiar with the grant resources that are available to you. Again, we have a large amount of information, documents, webinars, tutorials on our website, and that just continues to grow each and every day. So we want you to become familiar with what's available to you. And then we also want you to be able to understand the resources that are available for audit requirements as well. All right, so just some general program information. Again, this is the Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grants. The funding source is American Rescue Plan Act under state fiscal recovery funds. And then here's just some basic information on this slide, as well as the link to the program website. I believe you're probably all familiar with, but if not, again, once these slides are up on the website, I encourage you to go to that and bookmark it and keep that handy. We're going to be keeping a lot of any announcements and anything along those lines posted on the program website. All right, so a general program overview, and I'm going to try really hard not to read through the slides for you guys, but I want to make sure I hit key points. So again, once these are available to you, you'll be able to go through and read all of the information, all of the linked information as well. But I'm going to make sure I hit the high points for you here and make sure you're familiar with what you need to know today. All right, so the purpose of this funding for this program is to address violent gun crime and community violence that's increased as a result of COVID-19, or to address a decrease in public sector law enforcement staffing as well as a result of COVID-19. So we had 4 eligible activity categories under this program. We had law enforcement staffing, violent crime reduction programs, equipment and technology, and then community violence intervention programs. When you submitted your application, you had to choose one of these 4 categories to submit the application under. All right, so just to briefly go over unallowable activity, just as a reminder for when you're going through and completing your final submission of the detailed budget worksheet for final approval. So this was in the program FAQs and the notice of funding announcement that was on the website during the application period. But just as a reminder, all of the items that are listed here are considered unallowable activity. So some of the things I'm just going to briefly highlight that we saw through the application period that may or may not have been in some of your applications, and perhaps it may have been awarded, but we've discussed with you that certain items are not allowable, so we may have extracted that from your requested funding amount. So vehicles, vessels, or aircrafts, unmanned aerial vehicles or unmanned aircrafts, military type equipment, firearms, ammunition, construction projects, as well as any costs that are incurred outside of the project period, and then some other fees and items that are listed there as well. Those are all going to be considered unallowable activity. These type of items should not be listed on your final submission for your detailed budget. And if you have any questions about that in specifics, I would encourage you to reach out to us via email to get clarification on that. All right, so just some general expectations again, as I've already stated, 2 CFR 200, which is Treasury requirements, they are applicable to these funds. So this includes, but is not limited to, single audits, competitive procurement, which we're going to talk more about in just a moment, and then other things that we're going to highlight as well. Subrecipients, which is you guys. So you'll hear yourself referred to as subrecipients or grantees or awardees. That's all referring to you. So you should read through each subpart to understand your responsibility and the applicable policy requirements under the assistance listing. And again, we'll go through that information in just a moment, where you'll see everything that you have available to you is going to be linked. And then also the Davis-Bacon Act is applicable for any project whose total project cost, so not just your awarded funding under this program, but total project costs for this project would be 10 million or greater. All right, so now we're going to get into some of the federal requirements and uniform guidance. So recipients under this grant program and this funding are required to use documented procurement procedures which conform to 2 CFR 200. You're going to hear us throughout this program period. So for the next however long your project's going to last for through the ending date in 2026, you're going to hear us refer to 2 CFR 200 a lot. And at first you're going to be like, huh, what's that? Unless you've been in the grant world for a minute, maybe you've worked on another grant program or something. So this is the federal guidelines under this funding that you'll need to become familiar with. It's a lot of information, but we're going to help walk you through that and link you to what is most important for you to know as a grantee. So we have some of the major subparts listed here. And as I go through the next couple slides, you're going to see more information linked as well. All right, so Subpart D post-federal award requirements are all going to be linked here. So again, once you have a copy of these slides, hopefully tomorrow, they'll be up on the website. You can click through these links to be taken directly to the 2 CFR 200 guidance, and you can read through each of these subparts. So just to briefly go over procurement, again, we want you to be familiar with on the front end of what is required. So recipients are responsible for ensuring that any procurement under this funding or payments under procurement contracts using these funds are consistent with the procurement standards set forth in the uniform guidance. So these records will include, but are not necessarily limited to, rationale for the method of procurement, selection of the contract type, contractor selection or rejection, and the basis for the contract price. Uniform guidance establishes that all procurement transactions for the property or services must be conducted in a manner providing full and open competition consistent with the standards outlined in 2 CFR 200. Recipients must have and use documented procurement procedures that are consistent with the standards as outlined in 2 CFR 200. Uniform guidance requires infrastructure for competitive bidding and contractor oversight, including maintaining written standards of conduct and prohibitions on dealing with the suspended or debarred parties. We also have a OPB short guide on procurement, which you're going to see kind of a screenshot of. I believe it's on the next slide, but we have it linked right here as well. It's available on our website, and it basically condenses all of the information and limitations on procurement into one really easy to read and understand graphic. So I'm going to show that to you here in just a second, and it'll help a lot. So here we go. So this kind of shows you the different categories of procurement. And I want to make sure, because this has come up in previous grant or other grant programs previously, where the amount going to the contractor or party that the amount is going to be for the life of the grant program. It's not per calendar year. It's not like if your program is going to last over multiple years. It's not per calendar year. It's not per fiscal year. It's for the life of the grant cycle. So again, this actual document is available on our website for you to have in its entirety to refer to in the future. And I think it's going to be super helpful for you, especially in the beginning of your project as you're starting to go through some of these procurement steps. All right, so subpart F, some audit requirements. I'm going to leave this for you to read in the future, but this is something you'll definitely need to be familiar with. And then we're also going to go through just some of our auditing information at the end of this webinar as well, as far as OPB audits. All right, so next steps as far as what's next for you as a grantee. And you'll notice on some of these slides, there's going to be screenshots of our website. Please understand that we're going through kind of a rebuilding, or we have started to rebuild our website to make it a lot cleaner, a lot more easier for you as a grantee to navigate. So you don't have to go to multiple places to find what you need to find. So it's going to look just a little bit different, but we've tried to keep it pretty streamlined so it looks relatively similar. But if you see something that looks a little bit different, just understand that that's why. So this post-award checklist is going to be available to you on the program website, and each step is going to link you to more information as to what you need to do. So step 1, terms and conditions. Luckily, those went out yesterday. So those go out via Adobe Sign. They go to the primary contact that is assigned for the application in the GeorgiaGrants portal. That contact came directly from, unless you've already logged in and changed it, it came directly from the application person who applied through SurveyMonkey Apply. So terms and conditions, again, went out yesterday via Adobe Sign. If you haven't seen them yet, a lot of times those, it comes through via email to your email inbox. And a lot of times that's going to come through to your junk, spam, or other folders. So if you haven't seen those in your focused inbox, check those other folders for that. If you still haven't seen it, reach out to us and let us know, and we'll see about assisting you with that. So these must be signed within 60 days from initial dissemination. And the current point of contact that went to can delegate it to another individual, and we'll walk through that in just a moment. And then linked right here is how to, we actually added an additional short document on how to delegate terms and conditions. So that's linked here, and it's available under the important documents and guides on your program webpage. but there's also a actual video tutorial that we have for you that I'm going to show you here or show you a screenshot of in just a second. That's also linked as far as how to delegate. But if the terms and conditions come to you and you're like, oh, I'm not the person who's the signing party, but I'm the person who's going to be doing all the grant management stuff, but I need the actual signer to be a different person, that's no problem. You can just delegate the terms and conditions for that purpose alone. All right, so here's a screenshot, or this one and the next slide is going to be a screenshot of how to delegate the terms and conditions. It's just a couple of steps. I will note that we have recently noticed that there is a difference in how that looks on the front end when you get the initial Adobe Sign email versus when you get a reminder email. So the reminder comes out, I'm wanting to say maybe a week or 2 weeks later, just reminding you, hey, you have this agreement that you haven't signed. And just note that the process to delegate that looks a little bit different. And we walk through that in the new document that I linked in that previous slide. So again, just walking you through the steps on how to delegate that. And then here's the how to delegate terms and conditions video. This walks you through step by step exactly how to do it. So if you need assistance with that, definitely refer to this video. It is up on our webinars and tutorials portion of our website. So I highly recommend that if you need it. All right, next is a step that I believe all of you have already gone through, or you should have already received the invitation if you were listed on the initial application, as far as the portal access to the GeorgiaGrants portal. So you should have received an email for that. You'll just need to follow the link to activate your profile. And then we have linked here, there is a portal user guide that answers pretty much any question you could have about how to utilize the portal. How do I add information? How do I get to my grant? All those kind of things. Has information about submitting payment requests for when you get to that point in the future. So I highly recommend you finding that portal user guide and bookmarking that, or just the web page so you have that to refer to in the future. All right, vendor management. So I'm going to point out here, I know I've sent out some emails to you guys. We have a previous process that we utilized that we are changing out of for the vendor management form and W-9 processing. So I know you guys are probably all aware that we are doing this through the SurveyMonkey Apply website now. You should have received that information. So you'll need to log back into your SurveyMonkey Apply dashboard where you submitted the application. And once you log in there, you'll see that there is a task available that's called VMF/W9. So that's for the vendor management form and W9 processing. Once you follow those steps, everything's there for you. We have we have the vendor management form linked there for you. So all you have to do is download that and then upload the completed VMF and W9. Make sure you click complete and submit, and that'll be in processing. And we need you to do that within 60 days of that being started for you, which was Monday of this week, so June 12th. So that needs to be completed and submitted in completion, in complete status by August 12th. Okay, the former process for this. So again, this is completed through State Accounting Office, so SAO. So many of you, in fact, I think all of you except for maybe one of you, and maybe even that one as well, went straight into the portal and clicked on the initiate the SAO approval agreement within the portal. I know you probably get in there and you're just clicking around and looking at things. So you probably saw that, clicked on it to see what it was. Well, that actually initiated the old process for our vendor management form in W-9. So you probably also, if you did that, you later received an indication from Adobe Sign that that agreement was canceled. That's why. So we no longer use that process for the vendor management form just because it seemed a lot, for multiple reasons, but it seemed a lot more difficult to process for our team as well as for the grantee. So we're hoping that doing it through the SurveyMonkey Apply website is a lot easier for you all as well as us. All right, again, just walking through the steps of that VMF and W-9 processing. And just so you know, we do have multiple programs that have just been awarded. You guys were just announced last week. A week, I believe, just prior to that, we had another large program that was announced, and we've had another smaller program announced within the past couple days. So our vendor management form, our state accounting office is going to take a minute because they're processing all of these documents for all of these grantees. So the last I was advised is that their processing time is at up to 4 to 6 weeks for processing those. So just be aware of that and go ahead and get those submitted in and completion on the front end as soon as possible. That's going to give you less wait time before you get your complete onboarding finished and ready to submit payment requests. All right, so step 4 is your final budget. So with your applications, you did submit a detailed budget worksheet. You're basically going to take that exact same detailed budget worksheet and just go back through it with a fine-tooth comb, make sure everything is listed on there that you anticipate being included in the funding request that you're going to submit. You're going to submit that to your program specialist, who is on with us, Max Levy. If you want to wave to us, Max. And I'm sorry, I didn't introduce you at the beginning. I should have. But you're going to submit those detailed budget worksheets as soon as possible to Max. We're going to review those and make sure everything that is in those detailed budget worksheets is allowable activity, is within the funding guidelines, all of those good things before it's approved. And then once it's approved, that is when you'll be able to move forward with the, as well as once your VMF and W-9 are processed, once all those things are done, is when you'll be able to move forward with the processing of payment request submissions. And please make sure in your detailed budget worksheets, we had a lot of issues with this in the worksheets that were submitted in the application period. Make sure that you are only putting in those detailed budget worksheets funding through this program. Do not include any other match funds or anything else, even if it's being allocated to this same project. We only want you to put in the detailed budget worksheet the funding that you're getting from OPB through this program. Linked here in case you need it. You probably don't, since you've already completed these through the application process, but linked are the detailed budget worksheet as well as the budget worksheet guide. These are also available under the important documents and guide section of your program webpage. Also, contingency. So I'm not sure if any of you had questions or read this in the initial email that went out to you guys, as far as your awards are just a little bit more than you would have requested in your funding for or on your initial application. This is for a contingency line item that we have implemented over multiple programs through this funding. So this is a 10% cost overrun protection. It does still need to be included in your final budget, and it is limited to, just like it says, cost overrun. So it is limited to that. It's not necessarily for just other various things that, oh, well, we got extra funding, we're going to put it in here. But we did want to make sure we covered that for you, make sure you're aware of why that award amount might have been just a little bit more. All right, next we're going to talk about budget revisions and change of scope. So once you've submitted, let's say you've submitted your final budget, it's been approved, you're going through payment request submissions, and something needs to be changed about your budget. We do allow for budget revisions, and this walks you through the process of completing a budget amendment request and submitting that. It does need to be submitted to our office and reviewed and approved by our office before you go forth making any changes to what's previously been approved. Otherwise, your payment request submissions may not be approved. So we do have a website linked here that gives you all the information on the budget adjustment process, and then same for change of scope. So the difference for a change in scope would be, this would be for if a recipient proposes to change the objectives or something major within the approved application. For that, we do have a change of scope form. Same kind of process. You're going to complete the change of scope form. You're going to submit it to our team. And then it does need to be approved before you move forward with making those changes. Again, if you move forward without the approval of the team, then you likely will not get those payment request submissions that are in relevance to that approved. All right, now the good stuff that you've all been waiting for, the payment request submissions. All right, so here's how we get you the money that you've been awarded. So if you weren't aware, this is a reimbursement base, which you all should have been aware, but this is a reimbursement based program. So you have to, you make the purchases, whatever it is, you have your documentation, you have your procurement for whatever it is. You're going to submit payment requests, or we call them PAs, payment applications, through the GeorgiaGrants portal. And you're going to attach to that request all of your documentation, depending on what it may be for. We'll go through the documentation, and we have all that information on the website as well. You're going to attach all your documentation. You're going to submit it to our office. We basically review it on a two-person level so that no one person is making a review decision. It goes through two sets of eyes before it gets approved. Once it's approved, it goes into the bank account that you set up on your vendor management form, and that is via ACH. All right, so I just kind of went through it in a whole general thing, so let's break it down. So again, we have a payment request template that's linked here. This is required on, this is an OPB document. This is required on every single payment request submission. So make sure you go to this, you download it, you keep it handy because you will need it every single time you submit a payment request. There's very clear-cut instructions on how to complete each part, what documentation is required depending on what category you're submitting the request for, and so forth. And then we do also have an OPB supporting documentation reference guide linked. So that helps you with an explanation of what type of documentation is required for what type of payment request, depending on what category you're submitting that under. All right, so again, just the process I kind of already generally went through. So the funds are going to be dispersed through the bank account listed on the vendor management form that you submitted to state accounting office. If there is ever a change to that bank account, you need to reach out to your handy dandy program specialist, Max, and let him know that. And we'll need to get a new updated vendor management form for you, which is no big deal. We just want to make sure that the money is going into the right account for you. So make sure if that ever changes that we go through that process. So timing of payments depends on correct banking, the signing of terms and conditions, and then providing complete documentation. We review those as quickly as we humanly can. Understand that different periods of time, we may have a heavier workload than others. It may take us a couple days to get through those. It may take more days to get through those. So it depends on how quickly we can review them. It depends on how well you supplied the documentation that was required. So if they have to be returned for revisions, that can slow down the process of getting you your funds. It also depends a lot on the ease of which we can maneuver through those payment requests. And I say that to mean if you just kind of throw all your documentation in there and it's completely unorganized and we have to kind of make sense of it, it's going to take us a little bit more time. Or if you submit one payment request for just a large amount of different things over different categories and it's like 50 attachments, different documents in your payment request, that's going to take us longer too. So we just ask that you kind of think about that on the front end when you start getting to the payment request process, and think about how you're uploading those documents and attachments, and understand that the easier it is for us to understand, because We're OPB, right? We're not in your project per se, so it needs to be really easy for someone outside of your department to understand and walk through. So the easier it is for our team to walk through that and understand what we're looking at and be able to approve it, the faster you're going to get your funds. And we are more than happy to walk you through that. Like when you get to your first couple payment request submissions, just reach out, just reach out to us. We're happy to help you with that and make sure you understand first time going in or first couple times going in, the best way to do that. There, like I mentioned, return for revisions. So there is a potential for if you leave out documentation or some numbers aren't matching up or something along those lines, for some reason, we can't outright approve it as we're looking through it the first time, we can return a payment request for revisions to you. We give you a 2-week timer, 2-week turnaround to resubmit that with the revisions. And if no revision or if those revisions aren't completed within that time frame or there's been no communication, then we're going to decline that payment request submission. We also have a handy dandy video tutorial on how to submit a payment request. It's linked here. It's also available on the webinars and tutorial section of the website. All right, so this is just a brief little snapshot of kind of what the header part, the top part of the payment request template looks like, just to give you a brief synopsis. The payment request template is also linked here again for you. So again, once you have these slides available to you, I encourage you to go to that link and download that payment request template and keep that handy because again, you're going to utilize it every single time that you submit a payment request. All right, point of contact and authorized user update. So I've already started getting some questions from you guys about this now that you're in the portal. So there are 2 ways that you can add somebody or have someone added to the grant portal account that's not already on there. The first is outlined for you in the instructions of the portal user guide, and it requires that the account level primary point of contact go into the portal and add the user. They do have the ability to do that. The second method is to complete the online authorized user designation form. And that's requesting that a member of our team go in and make the update for you. So some of you have reached out and said, like, the person who submitted the application, which would be the main point of contact once it's transitioned into the portal, that person's no longer with our agency, so we don't have access. So the best thing for you to do would be to go online, complete the authorized user designation form, and that will be requesting that a member of our team go in and add the person to the account. And please just be aware that if you utilize that online designation form for us to add the person, it does require a signed memo on letterhead to be attached to the request form. Otherwise, we cannot provide or make the update for you. We require that because it secures the integrity of your account. That way, Joe Schmo isn't submitting a request to be added to, ABC Police Department's grant portal account. So please understand that that's why we do that. So that's the 2 ways to have someone added. So if now that you're in the portal and you know that you need to add people, that's your 2 ways to do that. Again, you can reach out to our team and have us process that for you. Please understand we do have a higher than normal volume of these requests right now because, as I already stated, we have multiple programs that have just been awarded or just getting access to the portal and going through this very same thing. So please be patient with us because we do these one by one. All right, so mandatory quarterly reporting. So this program is subject to quarterly reporting. So OPB requires that grantees submit specified information based on what Treasury requires from us. And this is on a quarterly basis. This all the information that we're going to be requesting from you is outlined in the SLFRF compliance and reporting guide, which is linked here if you'd like to refer to that for further information. And we do utilize SurveyMonkey Apply for quarterly reporting. So I'm going to kind of walk through the difference in SurveyMonkey Apply and the portal here in just a second. And then after this, we're going to go through the timeline for reporting as well. So the difference in SurveyMonkey Apply and the grant portal, and I know I've spoken to some of you guys already about this. These are two different websites. Now, the information that was integrated into the Georgia Grants portal did come directly from what was in your application submitted through SurveyMonkey Apply, but they are two separate websites. So just because someone is added to your Georgia Grants portal account does not mean that they're automatically added to your SurveyMonkey Apply dashboard profile application, whatever you want to refer to it as. However, you can add people as collaborators on your SurveyMonkey Apply application. So the way we do it for quarterly reporting is it's going to be attached to your previously submitted application, and it just moves to different stages for quarterly reporting. So when your first round of quarterly reporting is available, which for you guys is going to be October, and we'll go through that in just a minute. When we start getting to that point, you're going to receive emails and information letting you know that. And once it's actually open, you're going to log into SurveyMonkey Apply, and you're going to see that public safety community violence application is in a stage labeled, depending on which report number it is. That one should be report 8, and it's going to say Q3 2023, because at that point, we're going to be reporting for the third quarter for 2023. Just like you did for your task or different tasks for the application period, you're going to click on that task. You're going to answer the questions, you're going to complete it, and you're going to submit it. And we're going to do that every quarter until either the end of the program period or you've utilized all your funding and your award is or your application is considered complete. So all that explanation to say, in SurveyMonkey Apply, again, your contacts may look a little different than in the grant portal account. However, your primary point of contact in the grant portal account should always be the application owner, as it's referred to in SurveyMonkey Apply, in that website. You can add collaborators to help you with the reporting process. They can, depending on what permissions you give them, they can edit, they can complete tasks. But the collaborators cannot submit a task. They can complete one, which, remember, that's two different activities. So you can complete a task as a collaborator, but the application owner has to submit it. I know that's a lot of technological stuff, and we will help you through that as we go. It's just proven really helpful for us to give you that information on the front end so that when you get in there and see it, you're like, oh, that's right, we did talk about that. So here is the reporting schedule. This is also available on our website. So again, as I said, you guys, your first reporting period is going to be quarter 3. So it's going to be available to you October 1st through October 15th, and it's going to be reporting for the period of July through September. So you don't have to worry about reporting until then. I know you probably see the July 15th sitting there, but we do reporting based on when terms and conditions have been signed. And for the majority of you guys, terms and conditions are not going to be signed in time for the reporting period that begins July 1. So we're going to start your reporting in quarter 3. So again, that's going to be available October 1st through 15th. And you'll receive plenty of notice well ahead of time, probably from myself or maybe Chase, who's also on our team. But you'll have plenty of notice about that, and we will help you as we get to that point. So just so you're aware, failure to complete mandatory reporting can result in an administrative hold for noncompliance on your grant portal account. During a period of noncompliance, grantees are unable to receive reimbursements for any pending or future payment requests for the or receive approval for a pending budget or amendment, Each time a grantee is placed in noncompliance status, and repeated failure to comply with this requirement can result in further enforcement actions for noncompliance by OPB. So again, we're reaching out to you during these reporting periods with multiple reminders. It's a 2-week reporting period. If we get down to like the last couple of days of the reporting period and you still haven't submitted it, at that point, we're calling you, we're emailing you, we're talking to you one-on-one to find out, hey, are you going to submit it, or what's going on? Why haven't you submitted it? It's not like you're not going to be aware of it. But we have had instances where grantees have not submitted, and this is the action we have to take because we're taking this information from you because it's required for us to submit to U.S. Treasury. So if we don't have it to submit to U.S. Treasury, then we have penalties as well. All right, so we're nearing the end here. I promise we'll get to some other questions. I know some of you guys have been going in the chat, but we'll also open it up for other questions here in just a second. But just to talk through subrecipient monitoring and audits. So OPB will conduct activities to assess the risk of noncompliance, fraud, and or fiscal negligence at each subrecipient. We also have monitoring components to ensure that federal awards are administered in compliance with all federal and state regulations. We do things such as ongoing risk assessments, monitoring, desk reviews, enhanced programmatic desk reviews, and site visits. If we're going to, which we will, get to those type of activities for your agency, it's not going to be a surprise. You're going to be aware of it. So just be aware that we do go through the monitoring and audits on our end as well. So as part of these ongoing monitoring efforts, we will conduct regular audits of financial records, performance data, and other information with each subrecipient. The frequency of these activities depends on the risk as well as other criteria for your project. And then some of these things, activities typically include, but are not limited to, the items that are laid out here on the slide. So we'd be looking at 2 CFR compliance and single audit results, state reporting, your procurement, which we've spoken about, permitting if applicable, disbursements, subcontracting, change orders, and contingency use, inspections, construction field work, which probably isn't applicable to most of you guys, but again, this is if applicable to your project, labor, and then environmental. All right, here's an additional slide that's just got a plethora of resources that are available to you, kind of all on one slide. So feel free to, once these are available to you on the website, go to all these links, read through it, see what you want to bookmark, read through what you can, and definitely reach out to us with any questions you have about any of this information. All right, so as I've already pointed out, Max Levy is our grant specialist for this program. So he's going to be your main point of contact for most of your questions, anything that comes up. But we also have, if for any reason he's out or any other just general questions, you can feel free to reach out to the grants at opb.georgia.gov. That's just our general grants box, and we can definitely help you there as well. And you can ignore, I should have removed the audits there at the bottom. We utilize another contracted resource for some of our other programs, but not for this program. So again, if you have any questions about something specific, especially if we don't cover it today, definitely reach out to Max or the grants box. And before we get to questions, which I'm about to open it up to, I want to ask just if you have questions that are possibly applicable to other grantees and not super specific to your project or your agency, definitely ask us those as we have time available for the next few minutes during the webinar. But if you have something that's super specific to your agency or your project or your award, I'm going to ask that you kind of keep that for email or a conversation with somebody one-on-one with our team. And I'm also happy to help Max. I know he's super busy with other programs he works with as well, and he's probably going to get super busy helping you guys with this onboarding process. So I'm Max, I'm offering you assistance, so take it if it's needed. But I'm also super happy to help if needed as well. But so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. And I think Max and Chase have kind of been answering questions through the chat. But again, if you can keep those questions to ones that may apply to others as well. Kimberly Cunningham, looks like you have your hand raised.
Just needed clarification. The person who's the point of contact, they're not going to be the grant manager. That would be me, who would submit all of the information, but I would not be the person that be able to hit the little submit button. What conditions do we need to change so that I would be able to do that? Prime example,
Okay.
they're the assistant chief and I'm their senior accountant.
So it sounds like you're referring to the SurveyMonkey Apply website because you're talking about the submit button versus completing a task.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the primary point of contact is always going to be the application owner in SurveyMonkey Apply. So if that needs to be changed, then that also means that the primary point of contact in the the Georgia Grants portal needs to be changed. So if that's what needs to be done, then those two options are what you have that we walked through earlier. You can either have the account level primary contact log in and make that change, or you can use that online request form. It's called the Authorized User Designation form, where you go in and you request that a member of our team make that change for you.
Okay, thank you. I just needed clarification on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I saw somebody just pop up in the chat. Will the webinar be available? Yes, this is being recorded. So it is going to be posted on our website and linked for you to view at a later time. I'm hoping it will be up by tomorrow, just depending on how long it takes to get it all uploaded and all that good stuff, but it should be up by tomorrow. So Todd, you're asking, we have items that were quoted in October, but are no longer available. Would the change of scope form be used to update the newer product? So the good thing is that a change, because your budget hasn't been final approved yet, you don't have to go through a change of scope at this point in time. You just need to update that final detailed budget that you submit to your grant specialist, Max, to whatever is available to you. So if that's a different vendor for the item or a different price or something along those lines, make sure that is updated in your detailed budget worksheet, and you have room in the narrative portion to provide information such as that. So just make sure that that information is provided in your detailed budget worksheet. But a budget amendment and a change of scope are not necessary unless until the final budget approval goes through, if that makes sense. Now, if the scope of your project is completely different than what was in your application and what's been awarded the funding for, then that would be a discussion possibly that we need to go through the change of scope, but it just depends on exactly what that entails. I'm reading Gabe's question. Give me 1 second. So Gabe is asking for hiring of law enforcement staff. Am I correct in my understanding that no portion of 2 CFR 200 is applicable since it is not a contracting process? I don't believe that's correct, but I'm going to 2 CFR 200 should still be applicable. Let me speak with our division director about that to verify that information, and I'm going to make a note to reach out to you directly, and we can discuss that. Cody Edge. So are we able to add new items in the final budget approval so long as it doesn't increase the award amount? So your award amount is based on the detailed budget worksheet and all the information that you provided in the application period. So unless something is eliminated from what your detailed budget worksheet was in submission of that during the application period, you would have to basically eliminate something to add something in, right? So I'm not going to say no, you can't, but it's definitely something. Some items have reduced in price, leaving some funds. Okay, gotcha. But as long as it's something that is still applicable to the project, again, it still needs to be approved by OPB as being in alignment with the program, all those kind of things. But definitely if prices have reduced on things that were already on your detailed budget worksheet and, for the program or project, and you have extra funding, absolutely see if there's something else within the project that you can allot that to. And that may be a discussion that you want to have with your program specialist, Max, as well. Or when you submit that detailed budget worksheet, please include that information saying that pricing decreased on some of these items since we initially submitted this, so we've added these items. Michael Braxton, I'm reading your question. Our proposal is for additions to our flock safety network. As all of their equipment and tech is proprietary, how is this addressed by 2 CFR 200? This is regarding a competitive bidding process. So as far as the procurement for it, that's going to be outlined by your spending threshold for that, as was outlined on that kind of grid or the short, the procurement short guide. So that's what it's going to be based on. So you may want to, we can discuss that either. I can assist you with that, or Max can assist you with that. But we can definitely help you with that. Does anybody else want to verbally ask a question? Everybody's so quiet in this group. All right, were there any questions in the chat that didn't get answered? Answered? Michael, you have your hand raised?
Yes. The other question I had was in terms of the budget. Initially, the budget that I completed was for, I guess, from 2022 for 4 years. And since it's only going to be 3 years, I guess that will affect the budget. What are we doing in that regard as far as the outline of the program?
So meaning that you have less time to spend the same amount of awarded funds. You're wanting to know how to spend that, basically?
Correct.
What category was your application under?
I believe it was under violence reduction.
Okay. So I would either reach out to myself or Max to kind of assist you with that and find ways to kind of recategorize some of that, some of the funding to kind of shuffle that around a little bit. Again, anything within the detailed budget worksheet does still need to apply to what you submitted the application for. So it still needs to be applicable to that project. But we can certainly assist you with making sure that you get all the funding that you were awarded.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Eric Moore. Eric, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question? Okay, I'm going back to the chat. Kim Roberts, can you clarify sole source requirements? Another question. Sorry. Another question regarding flock systems and will exceed $250,000. So that's something I'm going to refer you back to the OPB short guide as far as what is required, and we can kind of talk one-on-one through that as far as what's required for sole source. We do have a sole source justification form that we would ask for you to complete if you feel that that is appropriate for that vendor or contractor. And that would need to meet the approval of the OPB team to be considered sufficient for that vendor. But we can certainly work with you one-on-one to make sure that that is what's appropriate. And if it's not, then we find the appropriate measure for you. Vinyl Baker?
Good afternoon. I think Max answered my question. I had an SAO approval agreement exchange canceled yesterday. I did 2 things yesterday. I uploaded the vendor management form and the W-9 form, and I signed the terms of conditions yesterday. And I think I did everything through SurveyMonkey. So Survey. So I don't understand what I did wrong.
So you're questioning why the SAO approval agreement was canceled?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. you may not have been on when I went through that earlier. So the SAO approval agreement is an old process, and we sent out an email about this a couple days ago too, because we realized that a lot of you guys logged into the portal as soon as you had access and you started kind of just clicking around everywhere. And a lot of you initiated that SAO approval agreement, which is our old vendor management form and W-9 process that we're no longer utilizing. So since you initiated that agreement, it had to be canceled. So that's why you received that notification, because you're correct in what you said. The SurveyMonkey Apply website is being utilized for that process now. You log in, you have 60 days to log in a SurveyMonkey Apply and complete that within that website. So the SAO approval agreement through the portal is not required. So if you have initiated that, you will, if you haven't already, receive a cancellation email saying that that agreement was canceled.
Okay, so everything else I did yesterday was correct when I uploaded the vendor management form and the W-9 through SurveyMonkey.
Yeah, I haven't been the one personally to look through that. Another member of our team looks through those and processes those. But yeah, if you completed and submitted it through SurveyMonkey Apply, then that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Deborah Jones?
Hi, I have a question. We got awarded through the Community Violence Reduction Grant, and we're going to try to, and we having a hangout like for use after school, but there was no line items for snacks or whatever. Should the county just take that up, or is that somewhere where I could put that in?
So that would just need to be outlined. So that could potentially be within your 10% contingency.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to put that in your detailed budget worksheet. Make sure you explain that in the narrative portion, and then it's going to be reviewed by our team and approved. So it is subject to approval, but if it's something that is applicable to your project, I would make sure you include that in that final detailed budget worksheet that you submit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go back to Eric Moore and see if he had a question. He might be having technical difficulties. I see your mic clicking on and off, but I don't hear anything you're saying, but you're not muted at the moment. Eric, I know you and I have communicated in the past. Feel free to email me whatever questions you have, and we'll make sure we get them answered. I'm not sure if the people who still have their hands raised had another question or if they're just still raised. Does anybody else have a question they want to ask? Oh, there went more hands. Michael Braxton, do you still have a question?
No, I was just putting my hand down.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Deborah Jones?
Ma'am, I've already spoken.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Someone is, okay, Haley is in the chat asking, and this will be our last question. Beyond the compliance and reporting guidance document, are we able to see the quarterly reporting requirements within the portal? So we actually don't even have, since this is a brand new program, we don't have those available at this moment. We will probably work through sharing some of that information with you before it's actually live. So I would encourage you maybe once you get the notice that quarterly reporting is available. Again, that's going to be in October. So you'll start getting notices, 14 to 30 days prior to that. If you want to see about getting that information, you can. But typically it's very basic information. It's going to be basic information that you guys are going to be getting on your project throughout anyway. It's just going to be more basically progress data from your project. But it's not going to be anything to be stressed out about or anything like that. But yes, we'll be happy to help you with that as we get to that point. All right, I think that's all the time we have. So I greatly appreciate all of you for taking the time to come and join us today. I hope this has been super helpful for you. If you have any questions that come up or something that we weren't able to get to for whatever reason today, again, feel free to reach out to Max Levy, who is your grant specialist. Reach out to grants@opb.georgia.gov. And I'm also happy to help you as well. Just understand that I may not be as up to date with everything since I'm not the grant specialist. So I may take a little bit longer to get back to you because I'm probably reaching out to Max. but I'm also happy to help you guys as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, this will be available on the website hopefully by tomorrow, so make sure you check back for that, and we'll have the slides up for you as well. Thank you for joining us.